Okay, we'll start over. Hi, my name is Dylan Mace. I'm the administrator of the Open Records Portal and the Utah Public Notice website here at the Utah State Archives. Today, I will be doing a walkthrough of the new Open Records Portal. It's about a month old, and the almost as new Utah Public Notice website that was replaced the end of September. Both of these websites are built to work with agencies at all levels of Utah state government. So we've got the tiniest special service districts with one volunteer staff person who does everything, all the way up to cities, counties, state agencies with scores and scores of people doing all of this. So these websites are an attempt to do everything for everyone. We'll spend the first half of the training looking at the Open Records Portal, and then we'll look at the Utah Public Notice website. The new Open Records Portal is built in a much more dynamic system than what we had before, which allows for a simpler, more fluid process of responding to record requests than the old system. We can also change features on it. If you've been using it for the last month, you may have noticed some tweaks and changes. I think that will continue on at least for a little while. And the thing I like about these websites is that they respond, the way you respond to each step determines what options you'll have later. It's much like a choose your own adventure book like you may have read in elementary school. And it's built on basically a map of the grandma law. And so one of my coworkers, Heidi Steed, a few years ago, built a diagram of how to respond to different situations with grandma. And when the developers were working on the website, they used that. So we will start with the screen that members of the public create their requests in. Obviously, records officers won't be using the screen to do their jobs, but we need a request to respond to, and you may as well see how it's created. As of last night, it has improved search capabilities. The agency can the person making the request can search by the agency name or the agency type. It was a little confusing there for the first month because it was only by agency type. And unless you know all the government hierarchies in Utah, that can be a little confusing. After choosing the agency type, a member of the public will see the agency address, phone number, and the main records officer or officers, and the request records button. If your agency has its own website that deals with grandma requests, let me know what the URL for that is. I can import it into our system. And then when a person wants to make a record request, instead of this button that will submit a request through our Open Records Portal, it will divert that person to your system, and you can just deal with it there. Then the member of the public wishing to make a request, click Start Form, and here it asks for the person's contact information. Now the requester is asked for a title for their records request and a description of the records they are requesting. Besides the title of the description, they're asked for a date range for the records. We also ask them the reason they are requesting the records. They don't have to mark any of these, whether it's legal, journalism, reporting, personal, or business, if they feel it is too invasive. But we can get some useful information out of this. In the past, my director, the executive director, and members of the legislature have asked what purpose people make requests for, and I've never had a good way to answer that. So hopefully we can make this work better for the public if we understand a little bit more of how the public uses it. And then they click Next. They have three options on this part. They can request to view the records only. You can request a copy of the records and say how much they're willing to pay for them. or they can request a fee waiver. By default, the button about expedited responses is marked no, but if they change it to yes, then they ask that you respond within 5 days. And then they need to answer a question about restricted records access. Are they the subject of the record? Did they provide the information for the record? If they have power of attorney, they are provided with instructions on how to provide that. The authorized representative gets the same screen. And if they're not restricted records, then the requester will click none of these apply. Now a requester can add a file. They may have typed out a detailed description of the records they are requesting, or they have some other file that is useful for you. Then they submit their request. They can then save a copy of the request they just submitted. And now you will receive an email notification that a request has been submitted to your agency. This notification is your key to the request. If you click on that link near the bottom of the email, it will take you to the request. People requested this feature in the old system. We were finally able to implement it in this one. I think it's super useful because rather than having to log into the system and look for the request, you click this blue link here at the bottom and it takes you to the request. Clicking on the link will take you to Utah ID. I'm already logged into Utah ID, so I click login and I'm taken to the begin screen. We start with the basic information: title, description of the records being requested, and the time frame, and the file attachment. The first question you will encounter is this a request for records? You would assume that any request for records through the system would be that, but quite often it's just a question, or it's somebody wanting to make some sort of statement. So after looking at the previous information, you should be able to determine whether they are just asking a question, making a statement, or making a legitimate records request. If you choose no, it is not it's an incomplete request and you can move on. If you choose yes, then you can answer whether your agency retains the record. Often members of the public don't know which agencies have the records they're looking for, and so they might submit it to the wrong place. This is where you can determine that. And then if the record was shared with your agency, then you get a link to the Utah code and the reason it cannot proceed. You can't share a record that is shared with you. That person needs to make the record request to the agency that created the record. And here is where you can mark that you plan to reply outside of the records portal. Lots and lots of reasons to reply outside the records portal. And so if you need to do that, mark it right here. You make your choice, scroll down and click next. We come to the final review. This question allows you to take more time to respond to the request. If there is a legally permitted reason to. If another agency is using it, you can wait until they return it. That's if you don't, if you didn't just give them a copy of it. If the request is too voluminous, you can estimate when you think you will be done gathering the records and supply them with what you already have. If you need to go through many records to find the requested ones, there is a similar option. If the requester has submitted a substantial number of records requests in the last 5 working days, or if your agency is processing a large volume of requests, each of those has a similar option. Legal counsel needs to review the records. You get 5 extra days for them to do so. If the records require extensive redaction, the agency shall fulfill the request within 15 business days of the original request. And if there are no extraordinary circumstances, mark none apply. Now we are in review status. Choosing approved will give you the option to upload the request, direct them to the website where the records can be accessed, or give them other instructions to access the records. If it is denied, then you will need to explain why, citing code. If the request requires more information, you can tell the requester what you need. If you need to reassign it, type the records officer's name here and send them comments on why you are assigning it to them. The developers are working to make this feature so that you can jump directly to it, much like the Respond Outside Portal button. And they're also developing it so that you can assign the request to another agency, and those two will be implemented soon. If the request is in process, the requester will be notified. If it's an incomplete request, mark it as such and explain to the requester what you still need. And if the records are unavailable for whatever reason, mark this and explain to the requester. If the record just doesn't exist, if it met its retention schedule and it was destroyed, any of those and more is a legitimate reason. And finally, it's the Respond Outside Portal button. I've chosen to approve the request and link a URL where the records will be available. You might notice that this is a link to the public notice website. Any records that a person requests that have already been posted there, you can just direct them to that site. On this page, even though it is toward the end of the process, there are some important points that I need to make. You can adjust the due date here. The system is set up to automatically time out and send a denial after 14 days. This allows for 10 business days and 4 weekend days. However, the logic falls down if there's a holiday during those 2 weeks. If a holiday is going to change the number of business days you have, you can reset the due date here. I actually heard from school districts that they really like this feature because schools have different days off than most other governmental entities. If they have a day that's the offices are closed for school closures or whatever, you can come in here and adjust this. Anyone can do that. If you have a closed business day, adjust accordingly. Finally, at the bottom of this screen, you submit your response, confirm your submission, and you're all done. Now we're going to look at the public notice website. This one, like I mentioned before, it was replaced at the end of September. I think mostly people have gotten used to it at this point, haven't had as many calls about this, but we're going to go through it right now. And here's the first page. Anybody who comes here gets this. If you're an owner or a poster on the public notice website, click on the administrative login button there on the right side of the screen, and it will take you to this login screen. Click that blue login button, and it will take you to the Utah ID page. Enter your username or email and your password, and then choose your method of receiving a security code. I've been asked a few times when this will go away, and I dare say never. The Division of Technology Services works to keep all of the Utah State websites secure from hacking, from criminals, other governments who might want to infiltrate and do some kind of harm. So if anything, the security is just going to get tighter. I don't expect it to ever loosen up. If you do have difficulty logging in here, I don't have any control of it. Like I said, that's the Division of Technology Services, and their help number is 801-538-3440. That's 801-538-3440. So after doing that, we get the security code, click submit, and we're in the system as an owner or poster. There are several features I'm going to walk through. First is the dashboard. Clicking on dashboard should bring up all the notices that you have posted or are able to edit. If there are a number of you in the office who can all post, you should all be able to access these same ones and add to them as needed. To add a notice, you click the tab that says Add Notice, and it will take you to this screen. Enter your government type, your entity, and the body. This should only give you the options of those that you are registered for. If this is an emergency notice, click the box. You should only need this feature rarely, if ever. This is really like a meeting that you did not know was going to happen, and you need to get it done as quickly as possible. So you would click that box in that case. And now we come through and fill out all of the details. The notice subject, they're still working on this. There's a huge list of options. Nobody ever finds the one they want out of those seemingly hundreds or thousands of options. And so this should become a free text area, and you can just type whatever you'll be putting in there. You can choose whether it's a notice, meeting, hearing, or bond, and when the meeting is going to take place and end, and event deadline. That's if you're getting public comment or submissions or something like that. And now you can attach files. As you see, the site accepts various file types, and the individual files must be less than 200 megabytes. I recommend that people add a copy of the agenda here. Also, after a meeting, when you need to upload other documents or recordings, do not create a new notification. Just come back into the original notice and add the recordings, handouts, and what have you from the meeting to the original notice. You'll be able to do that from the search and edit notices or from the dashboard. And you start the same way as in the last tab. It brings up all of your notices. If you're unable to complete the posting when you're working on it and you have to save it, you can come back in and click on the draft notices and complete it later. Displays them like this. Published notices can be found here. As you may have noticed, there's a bit of redundancy on the site. If one path works for you, go ahead and just use that one. And here's what it displays. Body and entity management is the next tab down the side. This one is quite useful. Click that and it will bring you to this screen. Now you can edit users and add posters. You can also add or edit public body information. Click that and it'll take you to a list of the public bodies that you can edit. Choose that, edit the information, and then you finish. If you don't find what you need there, click on the Archives and Records Service logo in the top left, which will bring you to this screen that will hopefully provide you with everything that you need. This is all kinds of important information that you can come in and edit, add users and such. You can also link your social media with this tab here. If you still have a Twitter account and you dare use it, you can add it here. Here are where you can manage the newspaper subscriptions. And every newspaper in this list, if it has a blue box next to it, will receive a copy of your notice when you post it. There are a few reports available through the UPNW. Not all of them are available to everyone. In this example, you can create a subscriber list for your body so you can see who automatically gets a request, who has signed up for that from the public. And if you click on user management, that will bring you to this screen. Similar to that other one where you could edit the bodies. And then also we have a couple of manuals. There's a link to the quick guide manual, which looks like this. There's also the comprehensive manual, which looks like this. And if you still haven't found what you need from this training and both of these manuals, you can look at the help and FAQ section. There's a whole list of things. Variety of topics. One important one in this section is a bit of information that I think is really useful, and it's which governmental entities need to post which items in their notices. Finally, if you're not legally required to post a record on the Utah Public Notice website, you can still post it. This actually saves time when responding to record requests, and it improves transparency. And also there's training for the Open and Public Meetings Act that I strongly recommend. I believe it's actually required. And that is through the auditor's office. It's training.auditor.utah.gov/. And it's 5 lessons, and it's free. So please, if you can take that training, it's really great. I hope this was useful, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is dylanmace@utah.gov, DYLANMACE. And now I tend to run through these really fast. So if anybody has any questions, now would be a great time to ask those.
Dylan, there's one in the comments asking about
regarding the records request portal. I did a reset on the due date because of the Christmas and New Year holidays. However, the requester was still sent a notification of denial 2 days prior. I will check that out. It shouldn't have happened that way, but in case there was a glitch in the system, I'll make sure the developers fix that. Yeah, I'll check into that and see if the developers find anything that's wrong with that. I believe, was the notice email fixed where if you put in more than one email, the email notification didn't happen? I believe that has been fixed. They were working on that before the holidays. So that should have gone into effect the other day, actually a couple weeks ago. We have a parent who wants copies of our policies. Should we direct him to this portal? If your policies are on the portal, yes, direct them there. If the policies are not online, they're going to be frustrated. So just make sure that the policies are there before you direct them there. I've been going back and forth with somebody who's looking for policies there that aren't there for a while, and it's super confusing for me and very frustrating for him. Yes, log into one platform to respond to grammar requests and go into the other one for the public meeting notices. And if you post notices, you'll be told by someone in your office that you're expected to do that. Not everyone does both of these things, but there is a fair amount of overlap in duties across the state, I've noticed. So got the public notice website to post meeting notices and agendas and things. And then the open records portal, if you receive a request, you should receive an email notification about that.
Dylan, this is Jen. I asked that question.
Uh-huh.
So it seems to me that responding to grandma is facilitated better through the actual email that you receive. Is that correct? That seems kind of new.
Yes, that's brand new. In the 5 years I worked with the old open records portal, people were always asking me why they couldn't just click on a link and have it bring them to where they needed to respond to it. So we added that with this new one. It's actually caused a ton of confusion because everybody goes into the site looking for the request because they got a notification because they're not used to that link.
Yeah, I've had a hard time updating my process myself.
Yeah,
changing.
And it's all new, so I feel slightly confused myself when I'm trying to help people. If you know that that request needs to go to someone else in your office, you can actually just forward that email to them. And so long as they're set up to be a records officer, they'll be able to click that link themselves, and then it assigns to them.
So you're not really working out of a grandma portal anymore. Like I kind of actually liked that, but that's just me.
I've discovered that a lot of people are going to like or dislike anything, no matter what.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be adjusted a little bit because there are really big agencies that get a ton of requests and they want to be able to manage those in more than a piecemeal fashion. So I do think that there will be a development in the not too distant future where one person can see all of the requests for an agency. So it'll be kind of a hybrid of the previous system in that respect, and then the new features in this new system.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Just to make sure I'm understanding kind of my procedure. The emails come to me. I usually do log in and I kind of like will approve it or whatever. And so then I do that process, but then I also then secondary to that would go to that email. I would click on the link and then I would respond directly to the person. Or no, the link in the email actually sends you into the portal for the grandma stuff, right?
Right. The link in the email takes you to the portal.
Okay. I've only done it a couple times in the new system, so I'm not savvy with it yet. Okay. I think I'm good. Thank you for answering.
You're welcome. Because of the auto. Okay. Sorry. What was the question?
Sorry, I just have a question. I was curious, I guess, if you can change it or if it's just if this is how it's gonna be, but with the way it's set up now, when someone is assigned the grandma request
Mhm.
and you accept it, the other person can't review it. So like our office, we have 2 officers just in case someone is out.
Right.
And once my main officer accepts, I can no longer see the request. And I personally don't like that because then if she's out, like I can't see it or finish it.
If
So
that
she
is,
has to assign it back to me.
yeah,
If
she would.
I wanted to finish it and if she's out of the office or something happens where she's busy and can't do it, I can't do it unless she takes that time out of her day to get it back to me. So I feel like that's kind of clunky.
That's how it is in the system now, but I think that that'll be addressed with that update where I mentioned that the really big agencies that they want to manage a lot of requests that come through. I think that we're going to be developing a feature where you can have broader access so you can see those requests that aren't necessarily assigned to you with that initial step or
Okay.
reassigned to you by the person who opens the request.
Okay. And then my other question that I have is that, is there a better way is there a way to look at the request before you answer all the questions in the portal? Because like half the time we don't know if we're even responding to the request before, like I can't, like we don't know, like do we have the documents? How long is it going to take? We don't know if we need an extension of time. Like we have to answer all these questions and we don't even know yet.
So the new request, it should attach a PDF of the request to the email notification that you receive.
Okay.
If you don't see that, let me know. But I know that that is supposed to, you can click on the PDF and review the request before anyone clicks on that URL and opens it and assigns it. So you can even reassign it from there just by sending that email if you look at that PDF and see that it really should go to someone else.
Okay, and then I just have one more comment, if I can. We have a requester that we've honestly been dealing with for over 6 months that has multiple requests a week. But he, now with the change in the system, how it does an automatic response to them, like we're one of the ones that we got recently, we said, hey, we're gonna deal with this outside the portal. He immediately responded like in a bantering way, I guess I should say, nicely, and was questioning why we're answering it outside the portal instead of inside the portal. So it like prompted him to be irritated with us that we're not using the system.
I hear stories from all over the state, and there are definitely people that everyone knows as a difficult requester, and those individuals are probably going to be unhappy with whatever you do, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just was wondering if that prompt has to be in there, like that it sends an email. Can it be an option for us to say like and email them, hey, we're gonna respond to this outside the portal, or instead of an automatic response to them?
The automatic response says that you're responding outside of the portal, though, right?
Yeah, that was the automatic response that went to the requester saying we're responding outside of the portal, and then he lashed back and said, why? What are you doing? Why don't you want to respond in the portal? It's almost like he thinks that we're trying to hide things. Obviously we're not. We're like, you can view anything we responded to, but he's like, why won't you do it through the portal?
It might be easiest if we just add some verbiage on that automatic notice explaining situations where a request might need to be responded to outside of the portal. I think that could be useful.
Yeah, no, something would be helpful, because I know that prompt, is I guess questionable. I think it's going to prompt people to question what we're doing.
Okay.
And I actually just asked Mindy is my other grandma grandma responder, and she actually just checked one of our requests we got yesterday, and it didn't have the PDF attached for us to view.
Let me make sure that that's going out like it's supposed to.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Mindy, do you have a question? Anyone else with a question? Feel free to just jump in and ask me.
Dylan, it's Diana. Just going back on your thing with the bigger agencies wanting to kind of monitor the requests that are coming in. Do you know how long that's going to take? I just had my manager asking when we met.
I don't know. I do know that actually my department is pushing really hard for that. And so I'm pushing to get that done as quickly as possible, just to keep them happy. I think that there were a lot of things, little things that the developers were working on to make sure that those were functioning correctly, and we can do some of these bigger developments now. I will certainly make an announcement when that becomes an option.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
So you mentioned that if we send you the link for our city's records request portal or whatever it is that we have, that you'll add that. Am I understanding then if somebody goes into this open records portal, that is how they're going to automatically be directed to the city, and I don't have to go through you?
That's correct. So if you have your own website that takes care of those, rather than that submit a request button at the bottom, it will just, when they click that, it will bump them over to your site, and everything they enter will already be on your side.
Okay, and then I won't get any reminders from you or anything like that?
Nope.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dylan, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oftentimes, I'd never have requests that are full approvals or full denials. They're often part, and the portal doesn't seem to accommodate that approval in part, denial in part. And I feel like that's an important function to add.
I think, I mean, it kind of does, but I'll work on getting that a little more clarified. I was looking at that last night when I was working on this, and it seemed fuzzy to me. But
Okay. Yeah, and I have only dealt with it once or twice, since it launched. Also, it didn't seem like charging fees was an option. Not that your software needs to accommodate billing, but just, hey, just so you know, this is going to cost you money, didn't seem to be a prompt of any sort.
well, the very first part where they're putting their information in, it asks whether they want to just view the records, if they want a copy, and how much they're willing to pay, and then request for a fee waiver. So that's about as far as it gets into that. There is part of what the company that built this does is manages fees for other state entities. And so if you are already in that system, I believe that they could make that link for you, but you'd have to already be in that system for them to be able to add that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Mindy, it says that your hand is raised if you still have a question. Or if anyone else has a question. If there's anything else, let me know. If not, just in a minute, I guess we'll end this and you can start your lunch early or get back to work.